In Deuteronomy chapter 2 and 3, Moses is remembering the last 40 years. In the midst of all this turmoil and wandering around, some amazing things happen. And he's going to recall this and recount this to the people. Take a look. Moses begins by saying, look, we took 60 cities. 60 cities with walls that were super high. And inside these cities were Rephaim. These were giants. And this was the reason why the 10 people came back and said, we can't take this city. We can't take this land. But they did. In fact, one of them, the king of one of these places called King Og, his sarcophagus was 14 feet 6 inches long and 4 feet wide. I mean, unbelievable size of these people. That's why they said, well, they're too big to kill. But they figured out how to do it. And you know how they figured it out? Faith. It came to a point where they were just like, we can do this. And not only did they kill everybody who was in there, which is what they were supposed to, they destroyed the city. They didn't even keep any of it. They just took the animals that would, they could eat, and they destroyed the city. And they did this over 60 times. Plus, there were villages that weren't walled that they didn't even count. There were so many. At the very end of this, he comes and says, look, I asked the Lord, can I go into the promised land? I mean, I know you said I couldn't, but maybe I could. You got to remember, Moses lived 40 years in Egypt as a prince. 40 years on the backside of the desert as a shepherd. And now 40 years as the leader of 2 to 3 million people and seeing God do amazing things. He's 120 years old, already doubling the life of most other people. And he's like, what do you say, Lord? But we can't forget, the book of James tells us that we who are leaders and teachers have a stricter judgment. And when we sin, there are consequences. There's consequences for everyone when we sin. And God will forgive us, but there are things that we cannot do after we cross over and do certain sins. And for Moses, it was, you won't go into the promised land. I already told you that. And so between now, the end of chapter 3, and chapter 34 of Deuteronomy, he's going to keep telling some more history and moving on. But it's not until then that he actually dies. And we're going to see, Moses dying and what an amazing, really, ceremony this is, was God buries him himself. Today, I want you to walk away with this. The difference is faith. We talked about that yesterday. But when they were walking in faith, what happened? They conquered everybody. The Bible says, you are more than conquerors through him that loved you. A lot of times we think of our lives, we think about a problem and it keeps hitting you and hitting you. We think, oh, I'm just trying to make it. God says, no, you're not just going to make it. You're going to conquer, but you're going to over-conquer. And that's what happens when we believe. Take hold of Deuteronomy 2 and 3 because God put this there for you. To know that God can overcome anything. It wasn't that these people were great warriors. They knew nothing about war. They conquered giants and walled cities by faith. And you and I can do the same. Let's do it today.